report. At the same time, I would hope that scientists will continue to develop their research and findings and assessment as time goes by. You may see there are some differences or improvement from their previous assessment report, but this is what the scientists will continue to do so. But at the same time, at political level, it is up to the governments who will take all these options reflecting to their national initiatives and government policies, and which will be integrated into UNFCCC negotiations starting from Bali this month.
Dr. Pachauri, you had a comment.
Well, I just wanted to offer a clarification. This is not a negotiated document. This is a document prepared by scientists based on a huge and substantial amount of rigorous research and publications that come out in peer-reviewed journals. We present these to governments. Governments naturally ask us to establish the basis for what we are presenting. And then, in the end, it is really the authors of the report who have to accept or reject the comments and views of governments. And in several cases, I can tell you that the language of the report certainly improves as a result of this process, because since I mentioned this is a policy-relevant document, often one needs to convey a scientific fact in a manner that is intelligible, that is appreciated and understood by policymakers. So there is no negotiation involved. I'd like to correct that.
Thank you very much. Before we take another questions, please make sure your cell phones are off. The gentleman right here.
Secretary General, we have seen the leaders of industrialized nations make very urgent comments about the need to tackle climate change, but we see emissions in many nations continue to increase. Meanwhile, in the big developing nations, they're saying they're going to have to keep increasing their emissions for 30, maybe 40, 50 years in order to bring people out of poverty. Given the political difficulty of this, I understand that in your job you have to be optimistic, but do you think we really have cause for optimism that emissions can be brought down to the levels that these people, these scientists, say is necessary in the time they say is necessary?
Basically, I'm an optimistic man in every sense. I'd like to be optimistic in all our common endeavors. So far, I have been encouraged by the level of political will at the level of leaders around the world. When I convened the high-level event on September 24th, I was very much encouraged by such a strong level of participation at the highest level, as well as the demonstrated political will. However, I know that this will be a long and very difficult process. Therefore, whenever opportunity arises, I've been urging that the leaders should address this issue on the firm, determined political will. Without a political will, we may not be able to agree within a very limited time framework by 2009. I will try to continue to galvanize political will and sustain that political will until we will be able to agree on a final framework which will succeed the Kyoto Protocol before 2012. But I would not at this time characterize whether I'm optimistic or pessimistic. What I'm committed is that I will continue to do so. And I'm convinced that by this time, with the release of this fourth assessment report, and with all the scientists speaking unequivocally in the same voice, and awareness of the international community has been heightened, then this will surely give some good meanings to political leaders.
Thank you. Before we go to the floor, I'll read out a question that's been emailed to us from the Sunday Independent in South Africa, and maybe from Mr. Steiner. Senior UN environmental officials have said on numerous occasions that climate change can be beaten, and that there are real affordable ways to deal with climate change. Could you please give us examples of real and affordable ways individuals, companies, and governments can deal with climate change?
I think the report, and if you look at the synthesis reports, identifies the major contributing sectors in terms of greenhouse gas emissions. And what is striking as a first example is that it is our infrastructure, our buildings, these very edifices that we have built over the last 100, 200 years and continue to build even in the year 2007 as if there was no global warming. We can achieve significant greenhouse gas reductions simply by dealing with energy efficiency use, by introducing innovative technology. And just a couple of days ago at the governing board of the International Labour Organization, the discussion was about how climate change would in fact create jobs in the future. I think Dr. Pachauri can provide many figures in terms of how the IPCC has tried to capture the economics, the economic rationale of in fact addressing global warming, providing innovation in our industries, creating new jobs and also creating new markets. In addition to that, we have the challenge of adaptation, and here it is more about how do we avoid losing what we have gained over hundreds of years of development, and here the equation is a much more difficult one. But even here, the report shows that there are gains to be made, and if you look at the whole question of reducing emissions from deforestation and degradation, we can have win-win-win propositions for the world. But for that, we have to agree, and we have to agree quickly.
Yes, Banu Patnagar, Al Jazeera English. Just a quick question, and probably has a short answer as well. How does the IPCC offset its carbon emissions by hosting conferences such as this and the one coming up in Bali?
Well, we really aren't involved in the Bali conference of the parties, except that we are going to provide inputs over there. So we are a very small part of the contingent that goes there. As far as the IPCC is concerned, we have really not been able to take any